Welcome to the Construction Revolution Summit. I'm Mary Tingerthal, and I am so pleased to see so many of you from so many different sectors here today. We have people from finance, we have people from construction, design, engineering, manufacturing, suppliers, and public policy. And we are going to explore the breakthroughs and innovative construction techniques represented by the speakers we've assembled today. You'll see different examples. We tried to pick companies that approach the business differently from each other. You'll hear about opportunities in the construction trade that hopefully will open doors for young workers to begin to work in the construction industry. And you'll also hear some of the challenges that have really kept modular and panelized construction from delivering on the promise that it's had for many years. And we're not going to try to sugarcoat the message. There will definitely be some things that you'll wrestle with in your breakout groups and in your action planning teams this afternoon. We'll finish today after our luncheon speaker with an action planning workshop, and we really hope that you will stay and work with us because that's what this day is really about. When I talked to various sponsors about whether they'd be interested in having this event, they said, we don't want just another event where people are going to come and hear about something neat and then go away and nothing happens. So that's why we planned the afternoon the way we did, so that ideas that you have for what do we need to do next in order to realize some of the promises of off-site construction that can bring to the industry. So thank you for being here, and especially thank you to our sponsors. If you're sitting at a table with someone with a name badge that has a sponsor tag on it, or their name is up on our banner, please say thank you to them, because we could not have done this without them. I do want to mention that there may be members of the media here today. I know that particularly public officials sometimes have concerns about that, but they will be leaving before the action planning sessions this afternoon. With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Stephanie Brown, and she currently works in the Twin Cities as a strategy consultant working on a number of critical topics that make local communities more welcoming, prosperous, and equitable. She does, in that work, support the work of the Itasca Project, which some of you are familiar with, and the work of their Housing Affordability Task Force. I had the pleasure of working with Stephanie last year. She supported the work of the Governor's Housing Task Force, from which we developed the recommendation that we should look deeper into modular and panelized construction. So with that, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. All right. As Mary said, last year, the governor convened a statewide housing task force to look at the serious shortage of affordable housing that impacts individuals, families, communities, and businesses across the state. After months of work, after conversations around Minnesota, the task force landed on a big recommendation: to build 300,000 more homes by 2030. And to do that with a radical strategy to position Minnesota as a hub for innovative construction. It's in response to that we are here today. And it is notable that this is a diverse crowd in terms of sector and industry. There are folks from construction and developers, for-profit and non, also people representing labor, elected officials, researchers, advocates for housing, because we're really united around this conviction that we can't wait to address the affordable housing shortage, or the housing shortage, really, that we have as a state. So how did we get here? What brought us to the goal of 300,000 homes? Let me give you 3 reasons. First, we have a problem with the cost of housing, and that problem is getting worse. Over the last 20 years, wages, or since 20 years ago, wages have been effectively flat, but the cost to rent or own a home has gone up dramatically. And that's not accounting for the other cost increases families have seen in healthcare and childcare and education. These price increases reflect the realities of supply and demand. Our population is growing faster, and building hasn't kept up. In the Twin Cities alone, since 2010, we have added 226,000 new residents and only 63,000 homes. That math is bad. Statewide vacancy rates are the tightest they've been in 20 years. In the metro, it's hovering around 2%. And if you're a family that makes $50,000 a year or less, vacancy rates for something you can afford are effectively zero. This has a huge impact on price. According to Greater MSP and the Regional Indicators Dashboard, the average rent increase over the past year went up 4.8%. That is twice the pace of the year before, and it doesn't compare well to our peer cities. No one is exempt from this. A quarter of families in the state are cost burdened. That percentage is remarkably high for low-income families in the 80s, but it's also increasingly impacting moderate income families who have seen 2 and 3x increases in the rate of cost burden, meaning they're paying an unsustainable portion of their income for rent. And we know that when a system is strained, a system that already tilts against families of color can double down and fall back onto old and unjust patterns. The problem hurts all of us, it doesn't hurt us all the same. So, if the first reason is we have a problem, the second reason we're here today is our current solutions can often feel inadequate to the problem facing us. New construction tends to build at the higher end of the market, and for real reasons. Construction costs are up, by some accounts as much as 24% in major cities. Labor is tight, raw material costs are high, and regulations constrain the ability to develop land. We are crawling our way out of a post-recession construction slump where we just cratered in how much we could and perhaps even should have built at the time. And as we're back to pace, we're still left with a shortage of around 52,000 homes around the state. And we're not building fast enough to really close that gap and make progress. On top of all of that, federal investment in housing has been dropping for decades, and state and local investments just haven't been able to make up that gap. If we want to buy our way out of this problem, publicly, it's going to cost us billions of dollars, and we have schools and hospitals and roads to pay for as well. Public investment is good and smart and needed, but it's not endless. Reason number 3, this matters. This matters for our communities, for our children, for our economy. If we succeed in building 300,000 new homes, that is $96 billion that we will have injected into the economy of Minnesota. $96 billion. And that doesn't even count the potential in today's conversation to really be a regional exporter of housing. We also know that when people are looking for a place to live, cost of housing is their number 1 criteria when they're relocating. And let me tell you, if number 2 is oceans and mountains, we're gonna have a little bit of a problem there. So let's see if we can keep our livability high and our affordability strong. And it's also about not just our economy, but our kids. We know that students that are in schools that are relatively stable, where families have a good place to live, they can cover a full extra year of curriculum over the course of an education. We know that senior citizens, that's a population that will double in the next 20 years, are looking for places to live that are modest, affordable, quality, and if they find those places, that is something that can be a lower cost for them and our society than assisted living options or trying to live in a home that is outsized for them. We've seen the way this goes down in other cities, and that's not something we want to replicate here in our city or in our state. We need a different model. So what do we do next? Well, fortunately, this is a great group. We're in a room of innovators, of creators, of problem solvers, and you're going to hear from wonderful examples in the state and the region and the country across the day about opportunities to really rewrite the math of high housing costs and shortages. You'll hear that while we're not at the forefront of these ideas, things are already beginning to change in this state, and there's real potential. So my challenge for you today is to think different, to think big. It's not about one company, one industry, or one government agency that can fix it for all of us. It requires the full work of the people in the room today. This is collaboration and systems change. If we truly want to position Minnesota as a national leader, it's going to take the work of all of us in the room. So let's dig in and get started. Thank you very much.